Bethany Warren here, and you've joined us for the weekly Our Millwall fan show with the Millwall No One Likes Us Talking team, which is broadcast every Friday evening. Enjoy!
Welcome back to the 2021-22 series of Millwall No One Likes Us Talking's Our Millwall fan show, in the fifth show of our new freedom post-lockdown. I'm your host, James Kelly, and I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Gary Staff, Ted Robinson, and Stan Godwin.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Well, another defeat on Saturday away to Cardiff City in the Championship, and that was followed up by a victory against Cambridge United at the Den on Tuesday night, which saw us set up a third-round home tie against the current FA Cup holders, Leicester City. Evening, Gary. How's things?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. As Ted said off air, I'm a bit buoyed by the result on Tuesday night. I think one massive thing's come out of it for me, and I'll take the place of Henry Stato Morgan in the show for this bit today, that 44% of the headers were won by Matt Smith on Tuesday night. That says to me, screaming out that,
wow. And
something I've been thinking about for a while, Jed Wallace is wasted up front. He needs to be out on the right wing, working with either Romeo or Martin Mara, where he does his best work. Put Smith up, give them a target man up there to play off of, and Jed can still overlap, even if he plays behind them. He can still do what he's doing, but I still think you need a known striker up there. We're lacking goals, and we're lacking, and even in defence, Smith helps out. And when we're lacking that height in the back four at the moment, back 3 or 5, whatever we play, he can step in and help out on the corners where we're lacking at the moment. So I actually think someone needs to step aside. Jed goes out to the right, and Matt Smith comes in after his performance on Tuesday night.
Evening, Ted. Would you agree with that?
100%. In actual fact, I was saying that last week before the Cardiff game, James. As Gary said, it's not only an attacking threat that Smith brings in, it's also defensive. And against Cardiff, I couldn't understand why he didn't have Smith in there, because their main threat, as we know, and to our cost, we see, was from long throws or corners or, Flint, Christ almighty, Flint scored 2 goals against Peterborough the game before. If ever there was a clear indication of where Cardiff's threat lied, it was there. So, I see what Gary Rowett's trying to do with the team and the way that he's trying to play in that. But at the moment, it ain't working. And we've got to change it to make something happen. A bit like he did against Fulham when he brought Smith on, all of a sudden we become a bit of a threat. I think on Saturday we need to grind out a result regardless of how we play or I'm not really interested in Stan and his pretty football that he loves. I don't care. I want a result on Saturday. And I think if that means putting Matt Smith in at the start with Benik Afobe up front, what I would do, Gary was right, James, about what you do with Wallace is let him roam around. I don't mind him coming into the middle and picking the ball up and running at people. That's his forte, isn't it? We all know he's got a shot on him as well. But also he can go out wide on the right and help out with Romeo if he's there, or unfortunately Danny McNamara was out, or he can go left and help Scott Malone. But leave Benik Afobe and Smith down the middle and play to them. And I think Blackpool are new to this division. They may like to play a bit of football. They ain't a bad side. They got a 2-2 draw against Bournemouth after being 2-0 down. But we have got to grind out a result on Saturday. And I don't care how we do it, but we need it, And Tuesday night's game, playing to Matt Smith, and like Gary said, Matt Smith won most of his headers. And you could see that they couldn't deal with him. And that's what we need to bring with us to Saturday's game against Blackpool.
Evening, Stan. What do you make? Fine, thanks. What do you make of the comments from Gary and Ted so far?
Well, they're interesting. I mean, I listened very carefully to what Ted was saying in relationship to Tuesday night. And although, and I have to say this, I mean, I turned up at that game on Saturday, Tuesday night, not really knowing what to expect. I thought Cambridge was in the second division, right? I sat there, and I have to say that was one of the best games of football I've seen all season, or for a long, long time. What was the main pleasure out of it for me was the referee, because we actually had a bloke who let the game flow. I mean, there was tackles flying in. right? It seems to be he's operating along the lines of what's coming down. So instead of keep blowing up and giving free kicks, he was playing the game, and that made it very enjoyable, right? And so much so that I'm used to going to games, and I've got no doubt we'd hear it on Saturday. You know, the referee would do this, and everyone starts moaning at him and complaining on the line. I never heard any of that the other night. Never heard any of it. I thought the referee was excellent in relationship to the game. You see, I watched. I mean, as I say, I fully expected when I saw Cambridge. It was all from Cambridge's point of view. I thought it was going to be a typical long ball game. Cambridge did anything but play the long ball. Their football was there to behold, and even when they were 3-1 down, they kept going. And if it hadn't been for the goalkeeper, they could have easily got back to 3-2. At no time did they go, and to use Ted's quote, "Oh well, we go long." They didn't do that, right? Now, Matt Smith was effective up to a point, and I thought, as it goes, Matt Smith had a good game. I think every Millwall player had a good game on that night. But the reason I say that is this: we up until Cambridge scored, we were dominant in that game. And I thought to myself, it's only a matter of time before we scored. And a lot of what was happening was that people were going down the wing and slinging in crosses for Matt Smith or whoever to get on it and feed it off and whatever. Now, they scored, Cambridge, and then we was on the attack. Now, what's his name? Murray Wallace, on that run, got his boxing gear, because I think by then they'd sussed out what we were going to do. And that if you see the move again, as Murray Wallace is coming down that wing, the fullback is pushed him wide because he knows exactly what he's going to do. But what does Murray Wallace do? He then cuts in, which he's not expecting. And instead of putting a cross in, which they was all waiting for, he then whacks it along the bottom and it goes in the goal, right? So what I'm saying is, I just don't subscribe to this idea that all you got to do, because we were doing all this down the wing and putting it over, and they were more than capable of coping with it, right? So... But it was a good game of football. We won the game, and deservedly so. But, you know, this idea that all we've got to do is just keep knocking it long and they're going to score. It ain't about pretty football. It's about you play against teams that you play like we did against. You play that sort of game against Fulham, and they're going to love it, because you're just giving them the ball all the time. That's the point.
But Stan, I
never
said.
I thought it was a good game.
I never said that, Stan. I said against Blackpool this week, I think we should do it. Listen,
well,
the bottom line is, mate, at this moment in time, you look at all the games that we've played so far this year, the only time we've ever looked a threat, real threat, is when Matt Smith's been on the pitch. At this moment, this side is still struggling for their first win of the season. Yeah. And at the moment, I think if you want to give them the best opportunity of winning a game, you start with Matt Smith. It's not a matter of playing to him every 5 minutes of the game. You can have Jeb Wallace buzzing around from midfield, picking the ball up. You can pass a short ball into him. But the point is, we only look a real threat in the games that I've watched when Matt Smith's been there. Because whatever you think about Matt Smith, he is, as Gary Rowett said in an interview afterwards, one of the best at what he does. But you've got to feed it to him. You've got to give it to him. I don't
deny that. But what worries me, right, and slightly, because the trouble is, if we become dependent on Matt Smith, I mean, who's to say? I mean, assuming Matt Smith is playing on Saturday, and I would assume he would do at some point, right? Who's to say that the Blackpool manager ain't sussed all that out and already got it there? So all I'm getting at is, in a way, because the trouble is, Ted, if we just depend on Matt Smith and the opposition take him out, and I don't mean kick him up in the air, then we're struggling. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but Matt Smith occupies people. If Benica Phobie plays alongside him, hopefully that gives him a bit more space.
Yeah, and also Ted as well, he also holds the ball up well. He can take his feet and bring other people into play. Mm. If you look at the pass that played to Murray Wallace, he passes it to him out wide.
Well, yeah. And look, sometimes you have to play to what your strengths are, or what strengths you have. When we played Fulham, we tried to play Fulham at their game, and we was miles off it. We're miles off the sort of football that Stan wants to watch. Our team couldn't get anywhere near Fulham. So what did we do? We switched it and went a bit more direct, and all of a sudden, Fulham were panicking a bit. What I'm saying, if you can't play the sort of football that you want to play and be better than the opposition at it, then you have to change things around and play to what other strengths you've got. We actually do have a strength in Matt Smith, but unfortunately, that strength in Matt Smith at this moment in time is better than the strength that we've got outside of it, in my opinion. I'd love to see us playing the football that Stan wants, but I don't think we're there at the moment with the players that we've got able to play it. Now, if Bennett came back, it might be a different matter. If Bennett was fit and you had him up front with a Phobie, where there's two real mobile players, Bennett can hold the ball up as well and was scoring goals. It may be a different matter. I like the thought of Bennett Phobie and Mason Bennett, but at the moment, Wallace, as Gary quite rightly pointed out, in my opinion, will never be that forward that plays up alongside someone. He's better out wide or roaming around the pitch.
The only thing I'd add to that, Ted. I mean, you said about Fulham, right? We didn't. From what I saw, I mean, we kicked off. I mean, in 137 seconds or something, we was a goal down, right? And we'd hardly touched the ball at that point. And when they got the second goal, right, which wasn't that long afterwards, 3 minutes afterwards? I don't even think at that point we'd even actually got into their half, right? So what I'm saying is, there's no comparison. I mean, we wasn't trying to play that football against Fulham because we just didn't get started.
We matched them up, Stan, and we wasn't good enough. You say we didn't get started because they was giving us a footballing lesson.
That's right.
And you didn't need to be Gary Rowett or anybody else to see that. So what do you do when you're getting played off the park? You've got to do something that the opposition don't want you to do.
No, that's true.
And that night was when Matt Smith come on. And all I'm saying is at this moment in time, we're not functioning well enough as a team to play the sort of football that you would like to see. I would like to see us playing. But I don't think Jeb Wallace is the right sort of man to be up front alongside Bennett Phobie. At this moment in time, we need a win. And I think the best opportunity for us to get a win is starting Matt Smith on Saturday.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, as I say, but, even if the only thing is, if you start Matt Smith, right, and I accept you probably will do, he ain't going to last 90 minutes. That's a certainty. And to some degree, that's a deficiency in my view. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see. I've got no axe to grind against Matt Smith. I don't dislike the bloke, but I just don't think he's always the answer, personally. But here we go.
Well, unless we find someone this week, we're not going to do that, are we? We're not going to use anyone else. So...
Well, let's hope we can get that. Let's hope we can get that first win before the international break, eh? Before we break, you may remember that in 2021, Lions fans Dean Brown and Steve Rendell were set to run the London Landmarks half marathon in aid of Dean's son Harvey, but unfortunately, the event was cancelled due to the pandemic. Harvey, who's now 11, suffers from MPS, and his father was set to run the race alongside fellow supporter Steve Rendell, who completed the course in 2019 and 2020 for the MPS Society. In absence of the race, Dean and Steve's intention is to run prior to the Sky Bet Championship fixture at home to Coventry City on Saturday the 18th of September, with the duo plus Harvey walking around the perimeter of the pitch at half-time to complete their goal. You can, if you're able to make donations on the Just Giving page, just put down Just Giving Dean Brown 20 will take you to the browser. We're going to take a break there and we'll listen to Patricia Maslin talking on iFollow.
Remember Carl Bates crashing off his chair at Carrow Road? And the commentaries that he and Max McLennan gave throughout the pandemic? Well, iFollow gives you all that and the inside track on our club, with a range of benefits including live match video streams if you live outside the United Kingdom and Republic of Ireland. Live audio commentary and exclusive club content is available everywhere. Sign up today to get closer to the action. And don't forget, at least 80% of iFollow net revenue goes straight to our club. It's a great way to show your support. A basic package is free and the audio pass starts from $4.49 a month. Go to Millwall's website and select iFollow to subscribe.
I'm James Kelly and I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking team of Gary Staff, Ted Robinson and Stan Godwin. iFollow is a great way to support Millwall, with the largest portion of the revenues returning to the club, whether you listen to either the audio stream or watch the video stream if you live outside the UK and the Republic of Ireland. Our first guest tonight is from Durham in the northeast and played his career as a centre-back, but was equally useful at full-back. He spent the first 7 years of his professional career at Middlesbrough, making 188 league appearances and scoring 6 league goals in the process. In the summer of 1991, he arrived at the Den on transfer for the sum of £300,000. He had 2 successful seasons at Millwall where he became a firm fans' favourite, playing 87 games and scoring 6 goals. After impressing several big-name clubs, he decided to move to Nottingham Forest in 1993 for £1.7 million. At Forest, he undoubtedly played the best football of his career, and his form earned him 2 England caps against Sweden and Brazil in 1995. Middlesbrough brought him back to Teesside in a £2.5 million deal in 1998, where he proved he was more than capable of playing Premier League football. He almost gave up the game in 2002 after his son Finley died in a car accident in an accident at the family home, something which Millwall fans reacted to, and games in memory of Finley were held over a number of years. At the end of the 2006 season, he hung up his boots after coming out on a late substitute on the last day of the season. Caretaker manager roles followed at Middlesbrough and Bradford before he returned. He managed Hartlepool in 2013 and 14. In 2016, he was appointed a lead national specialist coach to the England under-21s, where he remained for 2.5 years. Here tonight is the man they named Super Coops. Welcome, Colin Cooper.
Thank you. That was a very, very impressive build-up. I can only be massively impressed with the knowledge, and B, you know an awful lot about me than I do.
Thank you very much, Colin.
I thought he was talking about someone else, Colin, really. But there you go.
Colin, before I let you off to the panel, many Millwall fans rallied to support the charity that you and your wife Julie formed, being the Finley Cooper Fund. Yeah. You both then took the very difficult decision to cease fundraising at the end of 2018. As I understand it, you both worked hard to identify projects that you would leave a lasting memory to Finley. We're sure many fans would like to know what those projects you both chose were.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks for that. And yeah, you're right. We did 12 or 13 years of fundraising in Finley's memory. And the reason behind us kind of drawn things to a close, if you like, is because everything that we did was focused around children. And at the point where we decided that we would cease fundraising, Finley would have been, he wasn't a child anymore. He would have been 19, and he'd have been 21, coming 22 now. So it was a case of everything that we'd done was focused around children, and you know the son that we were doing that in memory of would not have been a child any longer. So we have to be very proud of all the support we had, and as you rightly said, going back to that horrible time, the Millwall fans were huge for both support and just the feeling of feeling like we had people who really cared, and that helped both myself, Julie, and our girls. So what we did when we wrapped the charity up as such is we said we wanted some legacy projects. So the main one, because the one thing that we always say to people is that Finley wasn't ill. It was a tragic accident, unfortunately. So all we wanted to do was try and affect as many children and their parents' lives as we possibly could. So the main thing that we did is we bought a building in the centre of Middlesbrough, which was a stone's throw from where it all started at the Riverside, and that is now going to become an autistic centre for children and their parents, children who suffer with autism and their parents, to get respite, and also somewhere to take them and fill time and space, which is amazing. And that charity is called MAIN, MAIN. So that building's now bought and is getting transformed as we speak. So hopefully when that is finished and is up and running, hopefully I'll be able to put take some pictures and some clips and stuff and put it out onto social media so that people, like I say, who are not local will realise that everything that's happened over the years And as you say, we had some really fun games with the Millwall fans and the Middlesbrough fans. And it was that first, after the first thing, I remember me and Julie driving down, and it was really, the weather was horrendous, and we drove down for that first initial game between the Middlesbrough supporters south and the Millwall fans. And it was down in Eltham, and it was a wonderful, you know, as sad as everything was, it was a wonderful occasion and lovely for me and to be reunited with the Millwall fans and to have that connection between the two clubs. So the main charity, MAIN, is a centre for autism in Middlesbrough. Two other projects which we supported. One was a place that we felt very close to very early on, which was called the Daisy Chain, which is again a centre for youngsters and young adults in the Teesside area. Again, it was focused around autism, but again, wonderful people, wonderful facility, and what we did is bought them a lovely light projection area and a kitchen so that the young adults could learn how to cook. And the other place was a place that we have always felt very close to, a place called Zoe's Place, which is a hospice, which is for children with life-limiting and life-ending disease or disability. So we felt at that point, over the course of the 12-year period, we through a friend of mine, Jason in London, he'd also hooked us up with Demelza, which is in southeast London, which was a place, another hospice. So we've tried to support things in different areas of the country where we felt, and obviously, as I said, the Millwall fans were so good and so kind and so caring when that happened. And so we wanted to put something back in that area as well. And as I say, with Jason's help, we managed to put some money into Demelza as well. So yeah, we've done loads of lovely things over the years. And yeah, it was just time. We'd raised almost 750 grand's worth of money from people who had been very kind and very caring. And we'd managed to spread that around a lot of really good causes for kids and their families. So it's something that we will be eternally grateful for, something that we'll be eternally proud of. And the one thing that people know is that we all carry our dragonflies with pride, and we will continue to wear the dragonfly and carry them with pride, because that will always be our homage to Finlay and what he brought to our lives.
Brilliant. Gary?
Colin, thanks for that, and thank you for all the hard work you've done for these charities in the past, and I say thank you on behalf of all the families you've helped as well. Thank you for that.
Listen, we consider, we went through as parents the most horrendous thing you can ever do. I think as a parent is to lose one of your children. But after lots of consideration, lots of thought, we tried to turn it into something positive, both for ourselves, for our daughters, and for all of the people who showed that they cared. When we formed the Finlay Cooper Fund, we decided in 2006, when I retired, we decided all we wanted to try and do was try and do something positive for children and their families, and thankfully over that 12-13 year period we were able to do that, and we got a lot of comfort, a great deal of satisfaction to be able to do that, and also to celebrate what people had helped us to raise the money, just to celebrate that we went through a really dark time, but all we wanted to try and do was just to help other families and their kids. So we're eternally grateful for everybody whoever contributed, and for anybody who ever recommended anything, because we tried to do as many things as we possibly could, because we weren't attached to any particular arm of anything, because unfortunately Finlay died of a tragic accident. He wasn't ill, so it was something that we just felt was a really positive thing to do. So we genuinely thanked everybody, and we still continue to thank people for everybody who contributed and anybody who just showed us some love and support over that time.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Colin. So let's move back onto the football.
Yes.
You left Middlesbrough in 1991, your hometown, and moved to South London.
Yeah.
A hell of an upheaval to come all the way down. Tell us how it came about.
Yeah, well, I think the obvious thing, which everyone will throw the connection at, which is right and true, is obviously Bruce Rioch was my manager at Middlesbrough. Bruce and I had a very close relationship. Bruce had a major impact on my formative years as a professional. I think when you are a young player, you have coaches and people who impact on your life and your career. And when I went into Middlesbrough, first of all, as a kid, I had a wonderful mentor in Willie Madron, who was my youth team coach and also became the first team manager and brought me into the first team squad at 17. Willie was a fantastic player, a fantastic man. Unfortunately, later in life, suffered with motor neuron disease and passed away way earlier than he should have done, and was always recognised as one of those players that should have played for England. And Willie saw something in me, which kind of he saw in himself as a young player. So he took me under his wing and taught me an awful lot. Because when I was a kid, I was I considered myself a goal scorer and central midfield player. When I went to Middlesbrough, I was really quite small, quite slight. And what Willie decided to do was to try and tinker, and he played me as a centre-half stroke sweeper, which is where he played. And again, Willie was not 6'6", built like a brick outhouse. Willie was a bit smaller. He was very, very intelligent. And so he kind of moulded me into something of a younger version of himself, which I was forever grateful for. And I got into the team at 17, 18 when Willie was manager. And then things at Middlesbrough at that time, all the clubs, Millwall included, and a lot of clubs had some really rocky financial periods. Middlesbrough had the same thing around that period when I was kind of 18, 19, 20. And just before it went really bad at Middlesbrough, Bruce Rioch came in as first team coach. He'd been at Torquay, obviously had the wonderful career as a player. Obviously winning championships with Derby and playing in fantastic sides and representing his country. And Bruce came in as a coach. And then unfortunately, the team got relegated because Willie basically had his hands tied behind his back, and unfortunately it just didn't go to plan. So Willie stepped aside and basically in that summer of '86, Middlesbrough went into liquidation and had nothing. We had nothing. We didn't have a training ground because that had to get sold. Didn't have kit. Didn't have anything. So it was a case of what Bruce did is, I guess, what his background dictated. So his father was obviously in the military. So Bruce basically rallied this group of young whippersnappers who had nowhere to go. I'd played, I think, 12 games in the first team and felt as though my career was about to end before it had even started. So what Bruce did is, with Colin Todd in the summer of '86, is basically we just started looking for somewhere to train, and we weren't allowed to enter the stadium because it was owned by the liquidators. So we just basically searched around for places to train during the summer as a group, and then the liquidation thing, kind of with the help of Steve Gibson, who's obviously still now the owner, who was only, I think, 26 at the time, formed a consortium to save the football club. And because of what Bruce and Colin Todd had done, is we'd got this young group of players who just formed a real strong bond. So Bruce became someone who I really looked up to. The discipline side of his life. You know, we were all very disciplined in timekeeping, how we went about our work, and I think all of the players. Somebody like a Tony Mowbray, who's gone on to be a really successful manager, always relates back to all of the groundwork that we did when we were kids with Bruce, about them things that your parents put into you, but then when you go into work in a football club, you need them kind of still them people who have that impact on you. And Bruce definitely had that. He was very, as I say, very straight, very, very disciplined in the way we did things. And with a group of young players, he was able to instill that into us and make us believe that as a group we could achieve, and which we did. And we did that for 2 seasons on the bounce. Ended up in the old First Division Premier League now. Immediately relegated, and then you saw the other side of it, because in the progression, you then start getting money, and then he brings extra players in from the outside, and it upsets the apple cart, upsets the balance. So yeah, the ethos then changed at Middlesbrough, which a lot of us were, you know, we have to be honest, that it was difficult to take, because we'd had this bubble for 2.5 years. Things started going not quite right for me. I had a couple of injuries which niggled on for a long time. I was in and out of the team, in and out of form, having had a really successful beginning to be a professional. You look at things. So in that summer of 91, for instance, what we're talking about, I was at a real crossroads. I think I was 24, 25. I was about to be married, and yeah, I had a big decision to make. So sat down with my wife when we were married and just said, listen, Bruce has been on the phone, wants me to go to Millwall. We've just been married. I don't feel as though we've got anything to lose, because all I see is my career levelling off and sliding. So we agreed to do it, and it was difficult. I have to be honest, it was difficult in the first year for sure. Obviously, things didn't go as well as what we hoped. Again, I was in and out of form for 100%. Bruce was finding it difficult with the fans, trying to bring that level of discipline that we had at Middlesbrough, into some really experienced pros. Les Briley, Terry Hurlock, Keith Stevens, Alan McCleary, all the guys who were absolute Millwall stalwarts, but trying to implement the same kind of discipline as he did to a bunch of young players in Middlesbrough was very different. And I think Bruce found it very hard. And obviously, and then also at that particular time, there'd been a bit of an upheaval, and Bruce decided he wanted to make me captain. Now, I've been a captain in every team I've ever played for, and I've always felt myself as a leader. But at that point, I felt a bit lost, because with the likes of Rhino, with Alan McCleary, and Terry had obviously moved on, and Les Briley was still around but wasn't kind of involved as much. That was really difficult for me, coming from the northeast, and it made it harder for me to settle. But we did. Myself and my wife, we settled really nicely. We had our first daughter, Annie, who's just become a mother herself, which has made me a grandfather, which is amazing. So that first period of time was difficult. And then, unfortunately, as we all know, Bruce left. And then Big Mick took over, which provided us with a whole different story. But the 1991 scenario really was very difficult to come down and relocate. Very difficult to form a new relationship and a new life. The people were always fantastic. I have to say, I've always said that the people of South East London took me in very quickly, even though at that point in the early days I wasn't playing great. I know that myself. I had so much more to offer, and obviously then the next chapter, which we'll go into, was when Bruce unfortunately left and Big Mick took over.
I'll tell you what I find unbelievable, Colin. We spent a lot of time getting you to speak in a Cockney accent, and you've lost it. I can't. I don't know what happened there, but there was a lot went into that.
I had with somebody like Rhino, with Keith Stevens, it's impossible not to. I mean, we obviously at the time, in that summer in particular, and when Mick took over, there was like myself, there was obviously Alex Ray from Scotland. We had Aidan Davison, was another Geordie lad, Ian Bogie, another Geordie lad, Paul Stevenson, another Geordie lad. But with people like Rhino and Macca and all the other guys who were around, and then obviously you Kenny Cunningham, who was an Irish lad. So we had. Do you know what we had? We had a really, really nice mix of people, and yeah. I think Mick bin Mick, basically when he came into the job, because let's not forget Mick came back into the club when Bruce was still manager. He came back from France he was in Le Havre with his family, but probably by his own admission, his knees were knackered. And he was looking at probably what would happen after football. But yeah, I spent many nights with Rhino and the other boys. And yeah, I think I did have a little bit back in the day. But you're right, having come back up north in '98 and having been gone. Here ever since, it's definitely gone. Even though it comes round occasionally when needs must, if you know what I mean.
Well, you mentioned there Mick, Colin. How do you compare Mick McCarthy with Bruce? I mean, Bruce is obviously a big influence on yourself, but what about Mick?
Well, do you know what it was with Mick? It became the first experience I had. So Mick came in as a player. So first and foremost, we became mates and we became teammates and we became strong friends, if you like, first and foremost. So when they decided that Mick was going to be the next choice, I think it was a case of we all sat down and we had some very experienced players. Let's not forget, people like Ian Dawes, as I mentioned, Rhino, Malcolm Allen. We had, as I say, in my opinion, we had a really good mix of people, youth and experience. And I think all Mick asked us to do was basically just pull our plum out for a mate. And I think we all felt that. And hence, I think the thing he said to me in particular was, obviously, when I came down, I'd played full-back for Bruce at Middlesbrough, even though I'd played centrally as a midfield player and as a sweeper, centre-half sweeper. But when I'd played that 6-7 years at full-back, when Bruce brought me down, he played me as a left full-back. And at the time, Ian Dawes was in the club. Dawes, he was a fantastic player, a really great pro, really good player, had obviously a fantastic time at QPR. And then when we pulled everything together and Mick sat down to me and he said, listen, Coops, he said, I'm going to play Dawsey at fullback. And I kind of went, well, do you know what, Mick? I don't disagree with you. I think as we stand today, Dawsey's a better player than I am in that position. He said, but I want you to play centre-back. And I went, all right, okay. He said, because you're quick. He said, you've got a good leap. He said, you're not 6'6", built like a brick outhouse. He said, but you read the game nicely. And he said, I still want us to try and play. And he said, I know you can play. So, and basically the answer to the question was, Mick, you're my mate. I'll do anything I can to help. And I think we all did that at that period. And we all just sat down and went, we have to get, yes, I had a really strong relationship with Bruce and I still have that relationship today. But it was a case of things had changed. Things sometimes don't work out in football. And one of our mates is putting his neck on the line because he wants to improve himself as an ex-player coming into management. And so the rest of us just said, right, we need to roll our sleeves up. We need to give this a really good go for Mick. And we did. And I think Mick's way of, he wanted to play good football first and foremost. So the team he had with him, Ian Evans and obviously Steve Harrison had been in the club as well. We're all advocates of playing good football. We wanted to show you guys that we cared. So we wanted to show that we cared about the Millwall way of wearing our heart on our sleeve. And we wanted to really compete and show anyone that came home or away, we were going to give you a game. Doesn't matter who you were, where you were from. but we were going to give you a game. And if you came down to the Den or we went to your place, you knew that you were going to be in a scrap because we knew that we had it in us. And I think Mick had that impact on the younger players at that time, people like Andy Roberts and Kenny Cunningham, as I mentioned before. So that became a really strong bond for us. And to be fair, we got pretty close, didn't we? We didn't make the playoffs, but we got pretty close in the second year. I think finished 7th, which I think gave all of us another platform because, you know, we were on TV quite a bit, getting some plaudits, which was lovely. We'd taken, you know, the likes of Arsenal all the way to penalties in the League Cup. And I think we'd shown ourselves as a pretty decent outfit. And that was down to Mick and to Taff and what we had on the inside. And I guess ultimately what we wanted to show you guys is that we cared. And after what had happened with Bruce, I think the time that Mick was there, in the time that I was at the club, I felt a really nice time, a really beneficial time, and both for me personally and for the club. And as I say, we only fell short by one place from the playoffs, which I think was a bit of a disappointment to us all, really.
Stan, have you got anything to add?
Yeah. Anyway, what's you calling it, Stan here, mate?
Hey, Stan.
All right, you played alongside some Millwall greats in your time at the club, the likes of Casey Keller, Kenny Cunningham, Alex Ray, Keith Stevens, to name but a few.
Yeah.
Who did you look up to the most and why?
Definitely Rhino. I think in the initial period, I was quite intimidated by people like Terry and people like Les Briley, Terry Orlock and Les Briley. Because they were intimidating characters. I'd obviously played against Millwall and Les and Terry were intimidating, no two ways about it. And obviously, you know, the group of Millwall players previously that had the success under George. But when I came in, Rhino was the figurehead from day one. He had, you know, his thought and his feeling for the club. He was the one that really, I think, for me as a player and a person in particular, he was the one that instilled into me what was expected to be Millwall. I've always felt as though everywhere I've played, I've given everything I've got. But I'll be the first to admit that in the first 6-9 months to a year of me arriving at the club, I wasn't at my best. I was nowhere near my best. And there was, I guess you could say there was a few reasons I could bring to that. But Rhino was always the person that I kind of gravitated to because he was Millwall, and he had the grit and he had the everything that it needed to be someone that that could justifiably wear the shirt with pride and also had the connection with you guys and with the rest of the fans. And so I would say without a shadow of a doubt, Rhino would be the person that I looked up to the most. I think Mick's recruitment and Bruce's recruitment was very good because he recruited some very good players, and some young players were also coming up through the academy, which at that point under Tom Wally was top notch, by the way. You know, people like Ben Thatcher, Andy Roberts, Kenny Cunningham, as you mentioned, they were a top. Tom Wally had them young players playing for that club like nobody else. I remember them getting to the Youth Cup semi-final against all the Fergie's babes in, I think, was it 91, 92? Youth Cup semi-final or I think it was semi-final. And only been turned over by Fergie's lads, you know, the Beckhams, the Nevilles, the Scholes. So that just shows you that what was being produced in the club at that time was also really good. And Tom Wally was an exceptional youth team manager. So there was the core and the underbelly of the club was there for sure. But I think what Mick did is he mixed the both. He mixed the old Millwall and the new Millwall, and the people that came in and made them. We all had to believe that we could play good football, but we had to be worthy of walking on the pitch at the Den, and we had to be worthy of wearing the lion on our shirt. And I think Mick was great at it. Bruce was good at it. Mick was better. But Rhino was always the person I used to look up to. And anything about what needed to happen on or off the pitch, Rhino would be the one person I would definitely gravitate to. Fantastic player and a fantastic man.
Well, Colin, there's so much more that we could ask you, so you're going to have to come back on us again sometime soon. We've sadly run out of time. But before you go, obviously we're playing Blackpool at the weekend, last game before the international break. Do you have any predictions for it?
Well, I think that the start of every season's really tough, isn't it? I mean, and all people want to do is they want to get off to a flying start. Obviously, that's not quite happened how you'd have wanted it to, how Gary wanted it to. But I think, listen, when Blackpool come to town, it's a case of, listen, you have this opportunity. You've got a break of 2 weeks to digest what happens. For me, it's a case of, building on the positives that have happened already. There's negatives in every game, in every context. But for me, it's a case of when the game kicks off on Saturday, every player should be made aware of what's expected of them on and on, in possession, out of possession, and in the bits in between. I've no doubt that that will happen because the coach is a good coach, and also I think the thing that was always given to us as a player is make sure you understand. And now that we have crowds back in, make sure you understand what the people on the stands expect from a Millwall player. And I think hopefully now that you've got punters coming back in and hopefully the ground will be rocking, hopefully that first win on the board in the league sense is going to happen on Saturday. And listen, I watch and listen. I've been away in China for a year and a half almost, and still watch and listen. And everybody that I worked with in China knows the passion for the clubs that I've supported and played with. And all I can say is, I think it's a really good opportunity. I think Blackpool have done exceptionally well, both getting promoted and where they are now. But yeah, let's hope for a big 3 points on Saturday.
Nice one, Colin. Well, yeah, thanks again for coming to chat to us. And obviously, we all wish you and your family all the best. So thank you very much, Colin, and we'll speak to you again soon.
I genuinely hope so. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
All the best, Colin.
Hopefully everybody knows how much I enjoyed my time down in South East London.
Yeah, just work on your Cockney accent, mate.
Thanks, Colin. Always a pleasure.
All the best, guys.
Cheers, Thanks again, Colin. Take care. Well, we're going to take a break there and listen to the man that can, walking round and singing amongst many other things, Barry Stradling.
Hello, my name's Barry Stradling. I'm a Millwall fan my entire life. I'm doing the London Memory Walk to try and raise some money for the Alzheimer's Society. I'm doing this because I've got close friends with Alzheimer's and I've got a family relation with Alzheimer's. So if you could help me out by going to justgiving.com, fundraising Barry Stradling, and try and raise as much money as possible. If you can donate some money and also share the link to people to try and get everyone involved in this to try and help people suffer from Alzheimer's.
I'm James Kelly and I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking team of Gary Staff, Ted Robertson and Stan Godwin. Next up we hear from Ellis Barr.
Ellis here. Thank you for watching my videos. Now to hear what the Millwall Lionesses and Romans have been up to, and to hear who is next up for Gary Rowett and the Lions. Come on, Millwall!
The Millwall Roman season is due to start in September. In the meantime, they're training every Wednesday at 7:30 at St Paul's. The Millwall Lionesses played their league game on Sunday against Ashford Town in the London and South East Regional Women's League. Jeff Burnage was there to watch the proceedings, and let's hear his report now.
Millwall Lionesses started their new league programme last Sunday in the very competitive London and South East Region Premier Division, and they were unfortunate to start with an away game against one of the title favourites, Ashford Middlesex, a Ryman League club with a thriving women's and girls section. Very heavily beaten, but I have to say that all the girls tried all the way through. It wasn't for lack of desire, but clearly a lot of work has to be done before the season gets much further. Chloe Burr, in fact, opened the scoring for the team, but Ashford scored regularly. The game finished 9-1. This coming Sunday, we're at St Paul's in Salter Road, Rotherhithe, our home ground. We're playing Fulham. It's a 2 o'clock kickoff. It's free to attend. All are welcome. The girls would very, very much be pleased to get your vocal support.
So that's a 9-1 defeat. Gary, what do you make of that?
Sounds like a tough gig. We walked straight into the first game of the season for the ladies. But I did hear it's a new team, a lot of youngsters in there, and they've got to gel. They've got to start getting back together. It's a hard start. We're up against the title favourites. Look, we're not going to do what we did last couple of seasons, go out and walk the league against these lower teams. And I think they've done the right thing for us. They've now put us in where we should be. So hopefully that will be a catalyst we need to kickstart us and hopefully go on to have a good season.
Stan, do you concur?
Yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, as Gary said, you've got new people coming in, and I also think we moved up a couple of divisions, didn't we? I think also. So that in it, so therefore the gap's got bigger, so they're going to need time to adjust and one thing and another. But no, I mean, there's plenty of time. It just might take them a little while to get going, and then I think once they get going, I think come the end of the season they'll be fine.
And Ted, what do you think?
Well, listen, James, I think what they've got to do, and this might sound a strange thing to say, but they embrace that defeat, because when you're a young team that's getting together with young players like that, yes, it might be disappointing on the day, but it's a challenge. What I'd be saying to the girls is, look, right, you've lost 9-1. As Jeff said, they all put effort in and that. Let's work to achieve better things this season. You know, let's make sure the next time we play Ashford Town that it's not a 9-1 defeat. Let's show everybody how we can improve as the year goes on. So you use a defeat like that, like motivation. There's lots of football teams that, you know, you see them lose one week 5-0 and then all of a sudden the following week they come out and surprise everyone by winning a game because they're motivated by what's just happened to them, right, you know. So it's obviously their first game. They're a young side, young players. You can just use that as a motivation for the rest of the season for them to improve themselves.
Yeah, I suppose it is just a case of, you know, ironing out the little mistakes that you could make. As you said, it was a new team, new start, so it's just a case of
I'll tell you
seeing
what,
what goes wrong and you know, just getting better at it. Yeah, go on, Ted.
Sorry, James, I was just going to say, when I was a kid, I used to enjoy a game where I lost like that more because it was challenging me than it was if I won 9-1. Because, you know, you just stroll through a game like that. In sport, you want a challenge. You want to be challenging yourself against the best. So, as I say, use it as motivation to become better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good for working on in the training ground, I suppose. If you're winning games by a lot, you can, you know, sometimes get a bit complacent. Then you find that you don't actually need to train as much. Whereas if you lose heavily, like we just did, you can, you know, find things that went wrong and you can work to put it right next week.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, going away from the women's team onto the men's team. 2 draws and 2 defeats so far in the league this season. However, we did win against Cambridge United on Tuesday night, as we discussed earlier. And as we've said, next up on Saturday, we're going to be hosting the newly promoted Blackpool down at the Den. Blackpool, our record against them is a bit sort of 50-50, really. 15 wins, 16 defeats, and 17 draws. And I think the last time we played Blackpool in any competition, we beat them 3-0 at the Den in 2016. Also, they did have a credible draw against Bournemouth at the weekend, where they came back from 2-0 down to draw 2-2 at the Vitality Stadium. So, chaps, what do we reckon? Stan, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, like all these things, at the start of the season, or like the first few weeks of it, you do get some rather odd results. I mean, I was sitting there watching the football on Saturday, and when they come through, I mean, before the game, I thought to myself, well, this is going to be 3 points for Bournemouth. I couldn't see it any other way, especially as they were at home. But as you say, they come out of a draw. So, but then, you know, I mean, I think we're due a win. If the application's right and the tactics are right, then I think we'll be okay. And no, I'm looking forward to 3 points, and it would be nice to get the 3 points because, as Colin Cooper said, we then go into the international break, and you've got something to look forward to. But no, I mean, I'm quite confident myself. Personally,
Good.
I think at the end of the day, we won't be in any sort of trouble.
No, brilliant. Gary, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Stan. I don't think we're any trouble on Saturday. I think we're going to have a nice, comfortable win on Saturday. Blackpool are the type of teams where we should go and get a win, and they just start getting that home average up again, get that energy back in the ground, and clubs fearing to come to us too much over the last season and a half when no one's been there. Clubs have been going away to away grounds and thinking, no fans here, I can nick points. And that's what they did with us, and we did the same to them. So I think we just got to get the fans behind us, get back in some kind of home form and make it a formidable place again. I do think there should be changes after the midweek game. I think, as I said earlier, Smith should come in and mix things up a little bit. But I just think we got to go out and just show Blackpool what a championship side is like to play against. We're now a consolidated championship team, and they're not yet. They're still on that cusp of getting promoted, still playing really like we were on our first season back in. They're on that wave. We just got to chop them down a few pegs and remind them that this is our territory at the moment.
Ted, do you share these thoughts?
Yeah, to a certain extent, James. Yeah, I do. I mean, look, there's no easy games in the Championship. Blackpool proved that. As Stan, I was definitely agreeing with Stan when he was saying about seeing the games on Saturday and he had 2-0 up. I thought it was going to be 4 or 5 to Bournemouth. But credit to Blackpool, they've come back and got a 2-2 draw. So that proves that nothing's easy. And there's never anything in games. If Scott Malone had scored rather than hit the bar and it was 2-2, you'd probably fancy a side that's come back like that to go on and win the game, and maybe Millwall could have done. That's how tight it is in this division with games, But I think, echoing a little bit of what Gary said, I think what we need to do on Saturday to go out there and give what our class as a proper Millwall performance, you know what I mean? Let's go at them from the word go. Let's put them under pressure. Let's make them understand that we are the established championship side. They've still got a lot to learn. I think if we get that through the right sort of attitude out on the pitch, and listen, I still think, and as we were saying at the start of the season, this is a stronger squad than we've had for a number of years. Yes, we've been a little bit depleted by injuries to what I consider to be reasonably key players like Hutch and Mason Bennett, and Danny McNamara's now gone. Ryan Leonard's been missing. We've had a dodgy start to the season through that as well. But listen, we got enough ability within our squad, as we proved the other night against Cambridge, to take a side that's done well, got a little bit of momentum, but let's show them what life's really about, being in the Championship on Saturday, and take the game to them. And I think we get our noses in front. I don't think they do a Bournemouth on us. I think we get our noses in front with a nice early goal. I think we could finish up comfortable winners.
Nice. Yeah, well, very confident predictions, guys. I feel like this is the type of game where we can really kickstart our season. Like we do have a habit of starting off pretty slowly, but I remember in 2017-18 we were in sort of roughly the same position when we first came back into the Championship. It took us a while to get the first win. We were knocking on the door to get it, and it was just a case of when rather than if. And then we played Norwich and we beat them 4-0. I feel like this is the type of game where we could really, kickstart our season and we can really push on from here. But again, that's just my opinion. Hopefully we can, as you said, go out and give a good performance on Saturday. Before that, though, we do have a prediction from Carla Marie Hales, who runs Millwall Home and Away site on Facebook. And she's predicted a 2-0 win. So happy days there. Okay, we're going to take a break there before we hear from a friend of the show famed for his motorcycles. But here, first, are Fantastic Fanatics.
Hi, I'm Richard Gordon, and I'd like to invite you to become a Fantastic Fanatic. Fantastic Fanatics is a great way to raise funds for your sports club. Sign up today, find your club and securely register your everyday debit and credit cards. Every time you spend with our retail partners, they pay a percentage back to your club. It costs you nothing and you can win cash prizes along the way. Visit fantasticfanatics.com and help your club be the best it can be.
I'm James Kelly, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us talking team of Gary Staff, Ted Robinson and Stan Godwin. It's well worth purchasing items through the Fantastic Fanatics website and rewarding the Millwall Community Trust with all donations. Our second guest tonight is based in Australia. His three favourite things are Millwall, motorcycles and Melbourne, where he currently lives. Let's welcome to the studio Paul Lever.
Morning, guys.
Hello,
or should I say evening?
Evening/morning, Paul. Before I let you off to the panel, obviously there's a lockdown currently in Melbourne, I believe. How's the COVID pandemic affecting you over there?
Oh, it's doing my head in. They do it really well over here, I've got to be honest. It's proper strict. It's like, go home, stay home, don't mess about. It's just bloody boring.
Yeah.
That's as simple as it is.
Aptly put.
Yeah, no, it's there's just nothing to do. It's literally, I'm at home with a cat. I can go and see the missus, and that's about it. Other than that, I can walk to the shops and I can come home again. It literally is that bloody. It's that sensible. If only England had done the same. Well, if only the world had done the same. Hopefully, we'd be past it now.
Yeah.
But I've got my COVID jab at 12 o'clock today, which for me is in about 6 hours time. So yeah, it's all happening over here.
Brilliant.
Good.
Hi, Paul. Gary here. How's things, mate? How you doing?
Doing all right. Mustn't grumble, Again,
yeah.
It's we are where we are. We're doing nothing. We're sitting at home watching YouTube.
So how long have you been over in Oz now, Paul? And what's it like to follow in the Lions? I know we've chatted in the past about watching the Lions. We won't say how, but how long?
Yeah, I got here 2013, so June 2013, so just over 8 years now I've been here. It's fantastic. That's all I've got to say. When I first come over, I was asking people what it was like, and everyone said it's like England 30 years ago. And you think, how do you mean by that? But it's true. It's literally, the police still beat people up in the street and everything else. It's like living in the 80s here. But it's really nice. It's every day I wake up. Where I live on the edge of Melbourne. I've got the mountains out my bedroom window and the city to my front room, and it's literally every day still like holiday after 8 years. It's bloody fantastic. I'd wish everyone to come here for a better life, but that's living in Australia. As far as football goes, obviously it's difficult at times when I'm waking up at 2 a.m. to watch a game on iFollow, and then I've got to be up again at 6 for work. That's a little bit painful at times, but other than that, you do what you do. It's very limited on how you can follow it. I mean, the football over here is pretty average compared to it. Although the passion's the same, I'll give them that. But it's just not got that little. It's not Millwall. That's all I can say.
I've got to tell you, Paul, no matter what time of day it is you can watch them and they have to get up and go to work, it's still painful, mate, I'll tell you. It don't matter where you are.
The way the season's going at the moment, I fancy that. It's a bit of luck I've had to sleep through half of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's your Paul? It's Stan here, mate. What do you think of our performance to date this season? And have you got a take on the baying fans who want Rowie axed?
Well, as far as the season goes at the moment, I mean, obviously it's been a bit of a grim start, although I must admit I was quite happy with the draw at QPR. That was a good start, I thought. But yeah, we're still to win a league game. But we've had some odd teams as a starter. So hopefully the win at Cambridge will give them a little bit of a boost, and we can do something at Blackpool. But let's wait and see. At the end of the day, we're down the bottom of or almost down the bottom of the table. We can only go up at this point, so things will be a bonus, hopefully. As far as all the stuff with Riot goes, obviously being here, you don't really hear it. I mean, or you don't know much about it. So it's not like when you're in Block 10 and you're with the peers, everyone's shouting and screaming and everyone's talking. But it's a difficult one to answer that question about Rad, because in all honesty, every manager in every club, they're all fantastic at the start. They bring a new thing in, they're all great. Things get a bit stagnant, they turn to crap. Everyone wants them out. So, as far as that goes, it's just like every other manager through history, isn't it? So.
I was just going to say there, Paul. You just summed up the manager's life. It's exactly like that, isn't it? Mate, it's Ted here anyway. You're saying there, like it's in Australia's like 30 years going back. I mean, I'm sure in all that amount of years you've seen some players that have been your favourite, should we say, and managers. Who's your favourite player that you've probably had and the best manager, you think?
I'll tell you, again, it goes with, every manager you love them when they arrive, and every manager you're sick of them when you're constantly losing. It's a difficult one. That I actually, even though a lot of people didn't like him, I used to like Dennis Wise. I thought he was a right little animal. When he was, manager and player. But I actually quite liked him. He's one that stuck out in my head, when you asked it. And another, as far as a player goes, the one player that sticks out in my head, and he never gets a mention, but it was back in the early 90s, Ben Thatcher. He was a left back. He was an absolute little bulldog, he was. And, he's not part of the T-shirts or anything like that. He's no name, but he was one of them players. I always used to think if we still had him, we'd have a good little bit of defence there. He was a little cracker.
You know what I likened him to, Paul? Ben Thatcher reminded me of a slightly more mild Terry Urlock, because he would run through a brick wall for you, but could play a bit, but never got any recognition for the fact that he could play a bit. You know what I mean? It was all about,
he was like a modern day footballer in his time. He was politically correct in his violence. He knew when not to get caught.
That's the best way I've heard of putting that. Oh, brilliant.
That's it. He could keep an eye on the ref at the same time as taking someone out.
Exactly. But you're right. He was a quality player. Quality.
He was fantastic, and he's probably one of the few that always stuck in my head as an absolute cracker. I've got to be honest. But going back to managers, they're all great in their time, and you just got to remember them for the good stuff they've done, not for when everyone got pissed off with them. Excuse the French. I don't know what other word to use.
Brilliant, Paul. It's been great to have you on the show, and we certainly look forward to seeing you return again. But before you go, have you got a score prediction for Saturday's game against Blackpool?
A score prediction? Well, I'll be happy with a win, whatever it is. Again, I think the last game will have boosted them up a bit. Hopefully, that will give them a bit of confidence and get the ball rolling for them, basically. So, I'd like to see. I'll be happy with a 1-0 in all honesty. Blackpool's an our team, but they're only one spot below us. They're also having a bad start to the season. So hopefully, that's the one we can take to turn things around.
I've got to tell you, Paul, you might have the mountains and the sunshine and all that heat and whatever, but it ain't Cold Blow Lane, is it?
Nah, I'll tell you what, everyone always asks me. Everyone always says to me, what do you miss about England? And in all honesty, I've got to be honest, I speak to London almost every day with someone or other, which is why I've still got such a not strong accent, I suppose. But it's literally the one thing I miss is a Saturday afternoon. That's basically it. Walking down the Alderton Road. I mean, the Chippy, it's probably even gone now. Stopping at the Chippy on the bridge, or like going to. I mean, I know Goddard's has gone. Used to go down Goddard's street before the game. Yeah. Used to go down there.
The Chippy's still there, by the way.
Well, that's all right, because I've been back to England twice for different reasons, and both times it's been out of football season, and it's so annoying. So the next time I do come back after this. I've told me bird over here. I've said, after this lockdown, we'll go back, and I will be back for a decent bloody game. I've got to be honest. So I'll be able to say hello to everyone then.
We'll meet you in the pie mash shop, mate. Don't worry about that.
You know it. Yeah. Well, I don't know what one it'll be now.
We'll find one.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's about the only thing I miss.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Paul. All the best, and obviously we hope lockdown ends for you guys very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now.
All right,
Yeah,
have a great
cheers.
one, guys. Have a good evening, and see you later on. Have a good one.
Yeah, okay, Paul.
Cheers, Paul. Have a good one.
Ta-da.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Okay, well, we're going to take a break there and listen to Bethany Warren describing a most helpful app.
Hi, Bethany Warren here. Millwall Lionesses have partnered with international smartphone application Be My Eyes. Be My Eyes is an application that truly benefits the poor of sight and the blind, but is supported by those of us that can see.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to first available helper.
That's where you come in.
Establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it for a present? Yes, it's a photo from my parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app.
Correct image.
And we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in. So, would you care to be my eyes?
Download the app onto your smartphone now and help those that need your eyes straight away.
I'm James Kelly, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking team of Gary Staff, Ted Robinson, and Stan Godwin. It's a great app to download, and you'll be really helping others if you do. People continue to lose their lives due to this dreadful virus or as a consequence of suffering with it. As deaths and infections continue, and many continue to be hospitalised as well, our thoughts go out to their families, friends, and those who take care of them. Additionally, please respect the requirements of transport and other locations in reducing the risk of infection, and also the preference of individuals to protect themselves.
First of all, let's hear from Harvey Brown.
Have you heard of the Lions Food Hub? It is now located in the Millwall Community Trust car park. That's beside Millwall's Den in Ballina Road. That Millwall Lioness, Kelly Webster, is involved. Don't forget to help the Lions Food Hub if you can. Thank you.
As Harvey said, they need support and you can help if you can by making a one-off or regular monetary donation online at Banquet. That is BANKUET. Or on a Saturday, you can make donations pre-match at the hub about 50 metres down from the Lions store. Alternatively, you can also contact the team via their Twitter and Facebook sites. Talking about Lions, the Lions Roar Fanzine will be available at the gates along from the Lions store. Watch out for Isis Smith on Saturday. She will be pleased to sell you a copy. Good night.
Next week, Henry returns on Friday at 8 p.m. to host the Two Roses and a Fawn show with Patricia Maslin, Bethany Warren, and George Lampy. So, from a thorn on a panel to game changers, the proper Blokes Club has amassed an incredible following, and their walks take on some fantastic strolls. On Saturday, the 11th of September, and we're at West Brom away. Now, if you don't go to the Hawthorns, why not join the Blokes on a trip from Brighton to Bognor? Come along and join Scott Johnson in breaking the stigma of men's mental health with a walk and talk group. There are regular walks from HMS Belfast, the Cutty Sark, and beside the not-so-prolific safety boat at Wallington Park. Check out the Proper Blokes Club on Twitter and Facebook for all the walk arrangements.
Don't forget, player sponsorship for the Lionesses is available this season. Why not share the burden between a few of you or even a couple of companies? If you can give them some added support, you can find details on their website. Just put Millwall Lionesses into your browser and you will find them easily enough. The Lionesses are still recruiting at the moment. If anyone is interested in coming down to St Paul's, Salter Road, Rotherhithe, please email recruitment@millwall-lionesses.com. I'll repeat that, recruitment@millwall-lionesses.com, or direct message either their Twitter account or Instagram account, Millwall_LFC. Don't forget our Lionesses need you, and you can watch them at the St Paul's Sports Ground, Salter Road, Rotherhithe, this Sunday in a 2 p.m. kick-off against Fulham, where all are welcome and the entrance is free. And don't forget, Millwall Romans need you too. Go along on Wednesday nights at 7:30 p.m. to St Paul's Sports Ground and introduce yourself to player/manager Paul Lodding to find out about playing. And it's good night from me.
Lastly, let's not forget to keep it safe on the streets out there. Don't forget, you'll be able to listen to the No One Likes Us Talking team bringing regular updates from our games both home and away on Maritime Radio broadcasting on 96.5 FM. That's it from me. Thanks to Gary, Stan and Ted. Until next time, let's hear the Wall of Sound deafen the Tangerines on Saturday. And that's good night from me.